Chair Stone, we are live.
Thanks very much. I'm just waiting for Brandon to show up on screen.
I'm here.
There he is.
Yep.
All right. Okay. All right, so I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone to the hearing. This meeting is being held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. The procedures for the meeting are as per the town's procedural bylaw and electronic meeting protocol during emergencies. I confirm that everyone is here. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. All right, moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated June 16, 2021 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see none. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated May 12, 2021, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public meetings to consider applications for minor variances to the zoning bylaw. The input received by agencies, public, and staff is important in order for the committee to make sound planning decisions. The procedure to be followed in these meetings will be as follows. A brief explanation of the application and any correspondence received to date will be given by the staff. The applicant or the representative will be asked to provide any additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Any members of the public present will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comments respecting the applications. Any persons making representation are requested to first state their name and mailing address. And please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Once the hearing is concluded, the input received will be considered by the committee prior to making a decision on the applications. If you wish to be notified of a decision of the committee, you must file a written request for notification. And on to our first application, the Smith application, and Adam is going to speak to that. Hi, Adam.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just going to share my screen. Is everyone able to see that all right?
We are.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 189 Rowanwood Lane. The subject property is designated waterfront in the official plan and is zoned Shoreline Residential 1. The applicant is proposing to construct a balcony onto the existing cottage and replace the previously existing dock. A minor variance is required to increase the primary lot coverage from 10% to 11.5% and increase the accessory lot coverage from 5% to 7.5%. Lastly, the applicant is proposing to increase the maximum permitted projection of the dock from 15 meters to 24.3 meters to allow for a water depth of 0.96 meters at the end of the dock. The zoning bylaw allows for a maximum dock projection of 15 meters. However, there are provisions that allow docks to project up to 30 meters if it's required to achieve a water depth of 7.5 meters. In this regard, the applicants are seeking relief of an additional 4.65 meters beyond where the 0.75 meter depth would be achieved. And in their opinion, this relief will be to not beach their boat, which they previously experienced in summers past. Staff are of the opinion that the increased projection does not appear to be justified based on the water depths that have determined to be reasonable, and further that the proposal would not be a minor projection, which would likely have large visual impacts when viewed from the lake and adjacent shoreline areas, and is not in keeping with the policies of the town's official plan, which establishes guidelines intended to limit the visual impacts of development along the waterfront. Further, with respect to the relief for the proposals to increase both the primary and accessory lot coverage, staff are of the opinion that the proposal is generally consistent with the policies contemplated in the official plan, as shoreline buffers will be implemented to mitigate any visual impacts of the lake. And further, staff are of the opinion that these are minor deviations from the zoning bylaw. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, as well as to the Mary Lake Association. The Mary Lake Association has provided comments that are supportive of the variances for lot coverage. However, they are not supportive of the relief being sought for the dock. A copy of these comments were attached for committee's information, attachment number 4 to the planning report.
That's the next application.
It is. My apologies. In the view of the 4 tests of the intent of the zoning bylaw with respect to the dock, planning staff are of the opinion that the 4 tests are not being met. The dock projection is larger than what is typically permitted, and further, it would not appear to meet the intent of the official plan, as the proposal does not adequately address the policies related to the visual impact and waterfront character. The proposal is not desirable as it is much larger than the necessary resulting in greater visual impact. And finally, this is not a minor deviation from the provisions of the zoning bylaw. As such, staff are recommending that this portion of the application be denied. Further, with respect to the portion of the application for lot coverage, staff are of the opinion that the 4 tests for the minor variance are being met and are recommending approval, conditional on the owner revegetating the shoreline buffer to the satisfaction of the town through site plan control. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or their representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm there is 1 hand raised. This is someone on the telephone. As a reminder, please do state your full name and mailing address before you begin your statement.
Sorry, I missed that comment, the last one. I was unmuting.
Okay, if you can just state your name and mailing address for the record, and then go ahead.
Perfect. It's Ruben Smith on the line here, one of the co-applicants of the minor variance here. My address, 10767 3rd line, Milton, Ontario, or 189 Rowanwood. Gotta say, handing it to you guys, doing this all virtual. This is first time for me doing it the virtual way with you guys. So did you guys have any questions, or did you want me to just run through the reasoning of what's going on with the lakefront where we are?
Well, not so if you have anything to add in addition to what Adam has already stated, and he kind of gave us the overall picture of what we're voting on here. So if you have anything contrary or in addition to, you can speak to that.
Okay, so basically, from my my brother's conversations and our conversations with Adam, the square footage increase is not really the issue. It's more the projection of the dock into the lake, the distance. So we applied for the 80 feet, which would give us 38 inches at the high water mark, knowing that the historic deviation of the water level by middle of September is 7 inches lower than the high water mark. So that would put us right around 30 inches. In conversations with Adam, from the document posted, the review document, the planning department is suggesting 65 feet or a 19.65 meter projection, which gets the 0.75 water depth, but that is the high water mark. So we still have a 7-inch drop in the boating season where the boat it's beached. It's sitting on sand. Basically, what I'm wondering is, from the sounds of the conversations and the recommendation from planning, the 80 feet is not recommended. Mary Lake Association doesn't want it either. Is it possible? Because really the crux of this whole minor variance is the low water mark. It's still in the boating season. So the low water mark at 0.75 meters occurs in September at 22.8 meters of projection. So 0.75 of high water is at 65 feet, 19.65 meters. Low water, where the boat would be beached in the season, is at 22.8 meters, which is 74.8 feet of projection. So basically we're attempting to get a variance within the confines of the bylaws, which allows for the 90 feet to obtain the 0.75 depth, where we'd be willing even to compromise on that and reduce it back so that the low water mark hits at the 22.8 meter projection, which would be a decrease in 1.5 meters of length into the lake. So I don't know if you have any questions. I know I've thrown a lot of numbers out there, but really it comes down to the 0.75 meter depth for the season so that the boat's not beached.
All right. If I can ask Adam or Kirsten to speak to, do we use the high water level? I know that we're getting better at managing the water levels in our lakes these days. Do we use the high water mark as the benchmark for our numbers?
Chair Stone, we do use the high water mark. This is a controlled high water mark, and that's the water depths that the provisions of the bylaw are built upon.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for your comments, Mr. Smith. I'm going to, unless you have anything else to add, Helena, did you have something specifically for Mr. Smith?
Well, through you, Chair Stone, perhaps also to Adam, but so are you saying that the 19.65 meters is at the high water mark or the low water mark? It's at 0.75, and you're asking for slightly more at 22, correct? You want, if it was 22 meters extended, then at least, like I'm trying to understand, with the high water levels, are you saying that the water levels will, that's the lowest it'll get at 0.75, correct? At 19 meters on the dock.
Adam?
If you go a little bit further, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to explain that. So Chair Stone,
Thank you.
based on the proposal as is, at the 24.3 meters, which is what the applicant's asking,
Mhm.
during the high water mark, the water depth is 0.96 meters, which exceeds the 0.75.
Yep.
And based on the information provided by the applicant, the 7-inch deviation to the low water mark, that would achieve a water depth of 0.78 meters, which still exceeds the 0.75. So currently the proposal, no matter if it's the high water mark or the low water mark, exceeds the provisions of the zoning bylaw. Keeping in mind that the
Right.
provisions of the zoning bylaw are designed and based on the high water mark. Further to this, based on the information given to staff, based on the water depths, the 19.65 meters that the applicant and myself are referencing is the length or the projection of the dock calculated that would achieve 0.75 meters at the end of the high water mark, or during the high water mark. What staff are suggesting in the report is the 4.65 meters of additional projection is beyond what the zoning bylaw allows to achieve those depths.
Okay.
So there's no factor provision for the low water mark, understanding that this is the controlled low water mark. And typically when those depths are achieved, if you were running into issues, your boat could be pulled out in advance of that.
Right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks very much. All right, thanks for your comments, Mr. Smith. I'm going to ask, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press star 9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
All right, thanks very much. Then I'm going to ask committee members, do you have any comments or questions? All right. Seeing none. Moved by Jason Fitzgerald, seconded by Helena Renwick. Be it resolved that a portion of minor variance application A07-2021 HTE be denied. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.18.6 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to increase the permitted projection of a dock from 15 meters to 24.3 meters to allow for a water depth of 0.96 meters. And that a portion of the minor variance application 07-2021 HTE be approved, the purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 5.3.4 and 3.1.6 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to increase the primary lot coverage from 10% to 11.5% and increase the accessory lot coverage from 5% to 7.5%. Conditional on the owner revegetating the shoreline buffer to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville to be implemented through site plan control. Any further comments? All in favor? And that's carried. All right, Adam, you're speaking to the salmon application.
I am. Just gonna start my screen sharing again. And just if we could confirm everyone's able to see my screen.
Yes?
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located at 52 Goldie Street. The lot is designated urban residential in the town's official plan and is zoned residential 2 with exception 0222. The site-specific exception on the lot permits a maximum of 3 residential units within the existing building. The applicant is proposing to construct a new detached garage, and if given favorable consideration, they are proposing to remove the existing shed on the subject lands. A minor variance is required to reduce the minimum setback from a warm water stream from 20 meters to 10 meters for the detached garage only. The applicant, in support of the application, had hired Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc., who submitted a water course assessment report. The report included mitigation measures as well as recommendations to appropriately address this feature and make sure that the construction and development would not interfere or harm the feature identified. Staff are of the opinion that the mitigation measures proposed are reasonable and are also in keeping with the purpose of the provisions of the zoning bylaw. As such, it is recommended that the mitigation measures contained in the report be a condition of approval should the variance be approved. Staff are of the opinion the proposal is also consistent with the intent of the official plan policies respecting urban residential areas. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. No concerns or objections have been raised. The application would appear to conform to the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and staff are recommending approval conditional on 3 items. That the recommendations contained within the watercourse assessment be implemented at the building permit phase, that the detached garage or shed be demolished and removed, and that an easement exchange recommended in staff report Corp 2021-41 be completed. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press star 9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm we do have 1 hand raised. So I will move them into the meeting now. As a reminder, please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and please do confirm your name and mailing address.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Do you have video? There you are.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks very much for having me speak on behalf of my application, and thanks to Adam for doing such a great job presenting it. Really what it comes down to is just as suggested, just looking to build a detached garage and have absolutely no problems conforming with the recommendations of Riverstone and maintaining the 10-meter setback from the watercourse at all times and maintaining the natural vegetation that's already there.
Fantastic. Nothing else?
I think that's it. Adam did such a good job presenting it. I really, there's not much else I can say, I don't think.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. All
Thank
right,
you very
so
much.
at this point, we'll ask, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press star 9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Committee members, any comments or questions? All right, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Brandon Stapleton. Be it resolved that minor variance application A16-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 5.2.4 in order to reduce the minimum setback from a warm water stream from 20 meters to 10 meters for a detached garage only. Conditional on the recommendations contained within the watercourse assessment prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions dated May 17, 2021, being implemented at the building permit phase. The detached garage being demolished and the easement exchange recommended in staff report Corp 2021-41 be completed. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, Adam, you have one more for us, the Westcott application.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, I hope everyone's able to see my screen.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. The subject property is located at 10 Kelsey Madison Court. The lot is designated in the urban residential area, and it is zoned residential 3 with exception 0162. This specific exception allows for reduced front yard setbacks, reduced rear yard setbacks, and interior side yard setbacks. It also permits an increased encroachment for decks into the rear yard and an increased coverage compared to the standard R3 zone. The subject property is developed with a townhome, and the application has been submitted to recognize the location of an existing deck on the subject lands. A minor variance is required to reduce the minimum exterior side yard setback from 3 meters to 0.9 meters for the deck only. As noted in the staff report, the purpose of the exterior side yard setback provisions is to provide adequate space for maintenance, drainage, and also sight lines at the corner. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with these policies, as the deck is fully contained within a fence, as you can see here in the site photos, and that no impacts with sight lines are expected. Further, the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan respecting the urban residential policies. The application was circulated in accordance with provisions of the Planning Act, and one letter of support was received immediately from the adjacent property owner, who I mentioned is in support of the application. A copy of those comments were attached to the staff report for committee's consideration. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal does meet the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and as such, staff are recommending approval of the application. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm we have no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Members of the public that wish to speak to this.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm we have no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Does committee have any hands raised to speak to this? Oh, it's too easy. All right, moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A18-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 5.2.4 in order to reduce the minimum exterior side yard setback from 3 meters to 0.9 meters for an existing 49 square meter deck only. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, thanks, Adam. I think Kelsey is speaking to the next one, the Little application.
Yes, that is correct. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. I'll just prepare my screen for presentation. Can you see the screen?
We can.
Great, it's working well this time.
Yeah.
And I could see my notes. Perfect. Well, thank you again, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 84 Vernon Shores Boulevard. The lot is designated waterfront and is zoned Shoreline Residential 1 and Natural Resource. The application has been submitted to recognize a 134.89 square meter single detached dwelling with an attached garage and deck that is being constructed within the 30-meter setback required to be maintained from type 1 fish habitat. A minor variance is required to reduce the setback from 30 meters to 22.7 meters. The lot was previously developed with a dwelling, dock, garage, and 2 sheds. Redevelopment of the site was proposed and the property received site plan approval, and a site plan agreement was prepared showing the new dwelling and all accessory structures in complying locations. However, following the commencement of construction, it was confirmed that the new dwelling encroaches within the 30-meter setback. As mentioned, natural constraint mapping identifies type 1 fish habitat abutting the property proposed development, as well as steep slopes on the property portion of the lot and deer wintering habitat stratum 2. To address the type 1 fish habitat, a fish habitat assessment was completed by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc. The report provided background on the Lake Vernon fishery, type 1 fish habitat, and the site conditions. The report concludes the project has a low likelihood of negatively impacting the fish and fish habitat on or adjacent to the subject property. The assessment recommends good construction practices be implemented to minimize any further disruption to the riparian area, as well as maintaining and enhancing the shoreline buffer through continued naturalization. The recommended measures will be implemented through an amended site plan agreement should the minor variance be approved. Natural constraint mapping also identifies steep slope areas and deer wintering habitat stratum 2. As the proposal seeks to redevelop the lot and the dwelling is sited away from steep slope areas, impacts to these constraints are minimal. The application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act and to the Lake Vernon Association. Comments from the Lake Vernon Association were received following the publication of the report and were provided to committee. They inquired about the fish habitat study being completed. As mentioned, a fish habitat assessment was submitted in support of the application. Letters of support were also received and attached to the report package. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and therefore staff are recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments about this.
The applicant or the representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
All right. Any members of the public that wish to speak to this?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
Okay. Committee members, any comments or questions? All right, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Kenneth Donald, be it resolved that minor variance application A15-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 3.5.1 and 5.3.4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to reduce the setback from type 1 fish habitat from 30 meters to 22.7 meters, to recognize a 134.89 square metered single detached dwelling with attached deck and garage. Conditional on the owner revegetating the shoreline buffer to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville, to be implemented through site plan control. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, Kelsey, the Taylor application.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I'll just share my screen again. Everything is good?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 221 Town Line Road East. The lot is designated waterfront and is zoned Shoreline Residential 4. The application has been submitted to permit a 189.62 square meter single detached dwelling with an attached deck and garage. The minor variance is required to increase the primary lot coverage from 5% to 6.89%. Additionally, it is recommended that accessory lot coverage be reduced to 3.11% from 5% to remain more in keeping with the zoning bylaw. Constraint mapping identifies type 1 fish habitat abutting the proposed development. As the proposed development is outside of the 30-meter setback required, potential risks to type 1 fish habitat are mitigated. Natural constraint mapping also identifies steep slope areas between 30 and 40% and 40% and greater. When development is proposed within steep slope areas, the degree of slope and slope stability will be confirmed by the town through site inspection and/or in the review of detailed information provided for the development proposal. On inspection, staff noted the existing dwelling is optimally sited for the property's topography, as the proposal seeks to redevelop the lot and is sited on a less sloped portion of the property. Slope-related risks are minimized. Mitigation measures to minimize vegetation removal outside of the building envelope and ensure tree preservation will also be implemented through an amended site plan agreement should the minor variance be approved. A condition to remove shed B to comply with the maximum of 3 enclosed and roofed accessory buildings on the lot is also recommended. For your reference, this is shed B, which is shown on the sketch to be removed. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and to the Fairy Lake Association. No concerns or objections have been raised. A letter of support was provided regarding the right-of-way, which was included in the report package. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance, and therefore staff are recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank
Thanks
you.
very much. Call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm we do have 1 hand raised, so we'll move them into the meeting now. As a reminder, please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and please do confirm your name and mailing address.
Can you guys see me now?
We can. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, so Blaine Hutchins, box 5287, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2K6. Don't really have anything to add. Kelsey's kind of done a good job. As she mentioned, the lot is steep kind of behind and in front. So this is the only spot we can really build. There's already an existing dwelling there. We're just making it a little bit larger. You'll see if you look at that aerial shot, right now there's a detached garage. It will be attached to the new dwelling, which will pull it further away from the right of way, which is why the neighbor's in support of that. That'll actually help his access. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I think it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, Kelsey's been out to the site and looked it over, and really there's nowhere else we can really do it. The lot is well vegetated. So yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. But if you have any questions, I'm here to help. So.
Well, that's great. Thanks very much. And I'll just also thank you for keeping the shoreline vegetation the way it is. That's exactly what we want. All right. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Committee members, comments or questions? All right. Moved by Jason Fitzgerald, seconded by Helena Renwick. Be it resolved that minor variance application A17 2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 5.3.4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to increase the primary lot coverage from 5% to 6.89%, reduce the accessory lot coverage from 5% to 3.11%. Conditional on the removal of shed B. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks very much, Mr. Taylor. And the last application, Kelsey, is the IMRI application.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just prepare my screen. Just to confirm everyone can see?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 160 North Drive. The lot is designated waterfront and is zoned Shoreline Residential 1. The application has been submitted to permit a 113.8 square meter garage with storage above. A minor variance is required. It is required to decrease the north interior side yard from 6 meters to 3.6 meters, to exceed the 60 square meter maximum area provision for 2-story garages, and increase the accessory lot coverage from 5% to 8.62%. Natural constraint mapping identifies steep slope areas and deer wintering habitat stratum 2, located within the vicinity of the proposed development. Fryco Corp Ecological Services prepared a deer wintering and slope stability assessment of the property. The assessment provided background on the deer wintering habitat, site and slope conditions, and impact mitigation strategies. With the mitigation measures implemented, the assessment concludes that there will be no negative impacts to the steep slopes or deer wintering habitat. The mitigation measures are included in the report and shall be implemented through site plan control should the minor variance be approved. Other constraints were also noted, including unevaluated fish habitat, cold water lake, and lake trout habitat. As the new structure would be set back more than 30 meters from these shoreline features, these would not be impacted. Additionally, upon review of the application, both the existing dock and dryland boathouse shown on the site plan do not meet the zone requirements, and the dock and its current configuration extends beyond the 15 meters permitted from the shoreline, and the dryland boathouse is not permitted as a shoreline structure. A letter from the neighbor was provided noting that the shoreline structures have existed in the respective locations since at least 2008, prior to the adoption of the current zoning bylaw. The 1974 previous bylaw did not limit dock projection, and as such, this structure can be considered legal non-complying. However, it could not be confirmed if the dryland boathouse is legal non-complying, as it has been existent as its existence for a number of years on the property. Staff were recommending this structure be recognized. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and the Lake Vernon Association and to the Lake Vernon Association. Comments from the Lake Vernon Association were received following the publication of the report and were provided to committee. The Lake Vernon Association raised concerns regarding the overdevelopment of the property, given the size of the lot, and expressed concerns for negative impacts to adjacent properties. In this instance, staff felt the proposed garage was appropriate as it has little to no visual impacts along the water, as it's hidden by the topography and existing vegetation. The garage also reflects the scale of the dwelling and the surrounding residential character. Letters of support were also received for the proposal that were attached to the report package. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance. Therefore, staff are recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. We'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm we do have one hand raised, so I will move them into the meeting now. As a reminder, please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and please do confirm your name and mailing address.
Hello?
Hi, Lanny.
I didn't know. It was pretty silent there, so I wasn't sure what was up.
We're just waiting for you. At least you weren't picking
Oh,
our nose.
okay. Yeah, good morning, Chair Stone, committee and staff. Lanny Dennis, Wayne Simpson and Associates represent the owner who is attending as well. He's on his cell phone. Appreciate the efforts and assistance and staff of bringing the application forward. I think that's a fair and accurate assessment of the proposal, and certainly concur with the planning department to approve the application. I think the merits of the proposal, I'd like to take just a few minutes to go through them, and I think we'll address some of the the comments perhaps from the Lake Vernon Association through the process as required by staff. The owners retained the services of a qualified ecological firm to address deer wintering habitat and steep slopes on the property. Additionally, there was a proposed expansion of the marine storage shed slash dryland boathouse, which was removed from the application. So that's no longer on the table. So that helps reduce the accessory lot coverage. I think there will be limited visual and ecological impact as the proposed garage is about 53 meters from the shoreline. As you saw in the photos, there's a fairly steep embankment up to that, and there's also a fairly significant existing mature year-round tree cover along the shoreline. There's no planting plan required. There's nowhere else to plant. I think they've done an excellent job in terms of retaining the shoreline vegetation. And certainly from a visual impact, I think we addressed that, but also from an ecological impact, the report indicated that there is no negative impacts to the shoreline as a result of the garage. Additionally, both budding neighbors supported or supplied letters in support of the application. So I think it fits into the character it certainly fits into the character of the area. It's located is on a while there are steep slopes, it's in an area that's not fairly flat, it's flat on sort of a step down approach as you come down from North Drive. It's lower than North Drive. So in fact, again, it'll probably the visual impact will be lessened because as you see it from North Drive, it'll likely look like, if anything, a one-story garage. So I think it'd be rather innocuous from that perspective. It's a long, narrow lot. Makes it difficult to construct a reasonably sized structure on the property. So I think variances would be required to some extent, no matter where you construct. And if you'll note on the site plan, you'll see sort of the structures are lined up one behind the other, so you don't have this sort of staggered approach. So I think that also helps minimize visual impact along the shoreline as well. The garage will be located in an area where there was a previous bunkie. The owner, when he purchased the property, there was an outstanding work order on it, so he tidied up that bunkie by eliminating it, and at considerable cost to do so, to make the property comply. I think in terms of the location that's selected, I think it works well with the existing driveway that comes right in off North Drive. You'll just be able to pull in and pull into the garage and continue on with the pathway from the garage down to the house. The stairs down to the shoreline, as shown in the photos by the planner, are well hidden from view with that significant mature vegetation along the shoreline. And I think without the stairs from the cottage down to the shoreline, it would be a trip, quite literally, to get from the cottage down to the water. And I think with the small dryland boathouse / marine storage shed, I think it's almost imperative down there, because you are that distance and steep slope access. It helps with security for marine items along the shoreline. So I think the two sort of work in tandem. And because of that, of course, it does increase the accessory lot coverage, which reduces the ability to build a reasonably sized garage on the property. The shoreline, the actual storage shed, I think it's 45 square feet, so it's fairly small. And I think recently we thought that if there are any additional marine storage required, it would be done up top in the new garage versus down below, so thereby reducing the impact along the shoreline as well. The owners are moving from Southern Ontario, and they're moving to Huntsville to make it their permanent home. So they certainly need some additional storage for their effects. And so that's why they really do need the additional area. I think overall, given the distance from the shoreline, the fact that there's that existing mature tree cover, the topography, and the neighbors are in support of the application, I think it does lend itself to a reasonable product to be constructed on the property. And certainly the planning department has gone through and done an analysis themselves, and they visited the site and came to the same conclusion. So in my opinion, it meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. I think there's no unacceptable adverse impacts, and hopefully committee will approve the application. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Are there any members of the public that wishes to speak to this application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 on their telephone to indicate that they would like to address the committee. Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Committee members, comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Brandon Stapleton. Be it resolved that minor variance application A19-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 3.1.15.3C and 5.3.4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to decrease the north interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 3.6 meters for the garage. Increase the size of a 2-story garage from 60 square meters to 113.8 square meters. Increase the permitted accessory lot coverage from 5% to 8.62%. And recognize the existing dryland boathouse. Conditional on no habitable space being permitted within the detached garage, and the foundation of proposed garage meeting the Ontario Building Code requirements in relation to the location of the septic system. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Lenny.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings respecting the above applications to be concluded. And we have some new business. The appointment of some of our staff. So moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment appoints the following individuals. Secretary Treasurer, Julie Wolf, Administrative Assistant Planning. Deputy Secretary Treasurers, Richard Clark, Manager of Planning. Adam Ager, Planner Kelsey Shadlock, Planner. And further that these appointments are effective immediately and for the term of committee ending November 14, 2022. And further that resolution numbers C0A05-19 and C0A 17-20 be rescinded. Kirsten, did you want to say anything about this?
Thank you, Chair Stone. It's just to clean things up a bit, as normally the planners and planning staff are secretary treasurers and assistant secretary treasurers, so that when the decisions need signed and all those sort of technical things that happen with minor variances and consents can all be done. And with the staff changeover that happened recently, we're just trying to make sure everybody has the ability to do so.
Perfect. Are there any comments or questions from committee? All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. All right. Moved by Brandon Stapleton, second by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 9:56 a.m. All in favor? You guys make it so easy. That's it. Thanks, everyone.